Hey, everybody. It's Janice Hermson live on What's the Story here with Ed Knoll in the dark.
Yeah,
Mr.
hey
Ed Knoll,
Jan.
you can see.
The sun's
Good to,
actually out. I'm in a shady spot. I was hoping the light would be better.
yeah. Hoping to see you soon.
Oh, good. I like
Uh,
this then. This I can
yeah,
pretend like I'm the unknown guy, right? Isn't this what they
that's
do?
right.
They keep the
That's
light
right.
off of them.
It's true. Yes, you're the man in the dark.
Awesome.
So yeah, so we were gonna talk a little bit today. Well, first of all, let me do my little thing here with I'm gonna share my screen and make sure everybody knows who our guest is for today. And hopefully that's visible to you. There you go. C.Evan Stewart likes to go by Evan. So Evan Stewart will be joining us about his book, William Henry Seward's Quest to Save the Nation. I'll say it right today. Last night when we were doing our pre-show, I couldn't seem to get that right. So, but an
That's
interesting
why we have
story.
pre-shows.
That's right, to practice so that we can make the mistakes then and not now. So yeah, so he's going to be joining us in about a half an hour, and we're going to talk. I want to remind everybody subscribe to hermson.substack.com and like and share and tell folks about it. We just talk a little bit about the authors. I sometimes post things there about what's going on at LaRue and also books that we have available or books we find interesting and can obtain for you. Because don't forget, we can always get a book even if we don't have it here in the store. So there you go.
Awesome.
All right. So yeah, so that's the deal. And I don't know what I was going to tell you about, but at any rate, yeah, we were just going to talk today about what's happening out there, what's going on in the big bad world. So
It's
have you been
crazy, right?
watching the news? Have you been watching the news or do you not watch the news?
So, well, I have a reason kind of for not watching it. I try to keep it away from my mom, but it's been it's I mean, just because it makes her angry. It's a
Oh,
thing, right? Well, watch liberal media. Sorry. It's
yeah.
all designed to make folks angry, and um, it's uh, it's crazy. There's so much going on, I think, and I think the big picture is the stuff that's going on is all going to benefit us. I think it's stuff that you know not everyone has the constitution to do, but it's messier than I'd prefer. But it's always
Yeah.
messy. It's always messy, and that's the thing. And I think so I've turned to doing my daily stuff, right? I mean, I don't want to see it every day. I know what's going on. I try to pay attention for changes, but yeah, I'm trying to go about.
Huh. Well, and I pulled up, if you see it on the screen there, I pulled up, this is just from Bing and some of the things that they're talking about of what's going on out there. So Donald Trump admits he wants to break protocol for King's address to Congress. Justin Trudeau warns AI boom could create hundreds of trillionaires and it will, dot, dot, dot. And then you have the U.S. soldier charged with using intel to win 400,000 on Maduro appears in court in New York City. Nothing very positive, I'm afraid.
No,
So
it's horribly negative, and
it is, and
it's
this is
so
really lightweight in comparison to many of the others
so
that
it's
I've
so
seen.
funny listening to old time radio when you look at the right 19 say 30s 40s and 50s, who were the heroes, right? It was the FBI, it was investigators, private investigators, and it was the press. Both Superman worked at a paper and the Green Hornet does. And
It's
anyway,
true,
those folks were respected for
right?
the news. Everybody there's like, oh, I read the paper, so I know what's going on.
Right.
Right. Hey, I read the paper, so I know, those folks were held in high esteem. And I was discussing this with my mom, uh, who didn't likely agree. But I said, those kind of folks, they've lost their way. There's no ethical, moral background in them. They're just part of the noise of the internet now. That's why their ratings have fallen.
Boy, have they ever. It's
And it's just about people don't want to hear the new negative all the time. You got to be have a special constitution.
it's true. You do have to have a
So
special
anyway, that's just
constitution.
part of my theory with it. And so I've stepped away and, and tried to look at the big picture. All the news stories are small things to distract us from the good big things that are going on.
Do you ever look at the local news? So, like what's going on in your area? And is that any different? Or maybe you don't look. So, I shouldn't ask a
So
question I don't know the
no,
answer to, right?
it's fascinating being back here after being away and seeing, baby steps taken towards it coming back to life. And so things that I look for, things that we did there in Reno, look for small businesses, get the startups. Here, they got Appalachia and Piketon just down the road is going to be like the area's largest and maybe the US's largest liquid natural gas facility. And they're putting it at what they call the A plant, which was where we centrifuge nuclear material, but that's been shut down here. And so, but they're going to put a power plant on the same place. And that's going to bring jobs and updated infrastructure and lots of things to this part of the world that they need or that they're missing. And
Yeah.
so, anyway, I've looked at that, right? And I've been trying to, local election signs are up, and I'm a registered voter here, and I know nothing about anybody. And
Oh, that'll
so
be
I'm trying
interesting.
to dig a little information and do a little research, even though it seems like the auditor is like a big deal. But I'm trying to pay attention and be smart in my decision making.
Yeah, so I pulled up just to kind of see what just randomly Ohio news, Ohio on the verge of double spike even after gas prices shoot to 429. So it was 390 as of April 27th. And where is it where you are?
So I'm in Portsmouth. I mean, it's like it's one of the poorest counties in the state, and there's a group of us here, and ours is like 399.
Oh, there
Yeah,
you
it was.
go.
Yeah, or it was yesterday. Ours is so before all the activity. Ours, I don't think I ever paid more than 279.
Hmm,
So
interesting.
it went up and it's been locked really the last month around 379.
Yeah, because
So
in
a dollar more. And then, now if it's moving on whatever it is, but our gas, so our high price gas is the same as your low price.
yeah, probably. Well, ours was 449 in Carson City, but here it's like 513 for
Yeah.
unleaded.
Yeah.
So that's because of the dramatic taxes that Washoe County likes to charge.
Well, it,
And then
it is.
if you go north of town, because I'm right here kind of in the center, if you go north, it's more like I guess diesel is like $6 or something.
Yeah.
It's
Diesel's a
crazy.
lot.
Yeah,
Diesel's
it's
a lot.
crazy. Yeah.
So those
So
folks back in the day, remember when diesel cars were an alternative to gas?
yeah, yeah.
I
And
mean,
not
there's
so
still a couple
much.
of them around, I think, but yeah.
Yeah. So
But
yeah, so
so
it's
the gas is the biggest thing. I mean, they had stuff, there's cool like I don't think my mom pays property tax. Actually, she does pay property tax, but she gets a reduction for her age and stuff. And I know like some people they were so the thing that happened in Lake Tahoe and Incline Village of the last 20 years where retirees, say teachers in San Francisco, bought a home in San Francisco and then couldn't afford the taxes is happening to it's happening to regular places. That kind of resort, those folks had to sell their home because they couldn't afford to pay the taxes, even though the home was paid for. And so older folks here, poorer folks here on fixed incomes, that same thing's happening as the tax base rises.
mhm.
And so there's like looking at paying, having no property taxes in Ohio.
Huh.
They
Well, that would
brought that. I
be
mean, that they brought that up, right? I
that.
don't
Aren't
think
they
they.
doing that in Florida? Aren't they trying to do that in Florida? That's what I think I heard.
So I think so. They are. It's a similar thing. I mean, the
Yeah.
challenge is to me. This is just me. Hey, I'm all for like uh, reducing taxes, but you'd have to look at how many programs. And best I know, you could take a certain amount of people and cut their taxes in half for them and still get money. It doesn't have to go to zero. It just needs to go down. Does that make sense?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I'd like to see that happen versus it go away, because then I think they'll get in Ohio's, a pretty rich state, and I live
Yep.
in a really poor area, and they take care of stuff.
It's
It's pretty
interesting.
cool watching. So new sewers have been put in, and storm pipes living on the banks of the Ohio River. So that's kind of been done. New electric, and
So things
so
are happening.
anyway, it's
Yeah,
it's kind of see small. It's good to see small growth, and
right.
anyway,
Well, it looks
that's
like
kind of what I've been active with.
Georgia's dealing with a drought, it looks like. So
Yeah,
Georgia, I just decided to check on another
weather.
state. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
it says they've declared a level 1 drought response. So what does that mean? Do we know?
Georgia's a jungle, right? I mean, they have like swampland and stuff
Right.
too.
But they have a
So,
drought.
and so do we, I think. Or I mean, until last night, it's only rained twice, like all month.
Hmm.
Um, and when it rained last year, it rained like 6 out of 7 days of this month.
Wow.
So, it's drier than last year for sure.
Yeah. Well, they're saying that they have to implement a public information campaign, including at a minimum notice regarding drought conditions and a drought specific announcements in one or more of the following ways. So they're required to do newspaper or online ads, bill inserts. So inserts inside your bill telling you there's a drought, social media, and notices in public libraries. Well, who's going to see that? Not too many, I don't think. Right. So that's it. That was the big story. That's the other thing I noticed since newspapers have gone away is that when you get a story like this, it doesn't tell you a whole lot, right? They do a paragraph or two. Maybe they're using AI for that. I don't know
Yeah,
because
I don't know
there's
either,
not
but
much information there.
that's a thing here. Water has always been plentiful and, mostly cheap because it's prevalent. But a lot of the storage facilities now that catch the water for municipalities and stuff are, what do I want to say, less than secure. And so they've had accidents, like some West Virginia place, I don't know, I think it was backhoe or something, leaked oil into their supply and they couldn't drink water for like a month.
Wow.
Anyway, just stupid, missteps and not taking care with their water sources. And so that's kind of attention. I mean, folks are focusing on that here.
Right. So I searched Louisiana just randomly, right?
Yep.
Same search engine, same thing, and they're talking about golf. That's their big deal. Saudi funded LIV, is that what it is? Or
So
is it
yeah, that's called
L
it's called Live. That's the Middle
Oh, okay.
Eastern
Okay.
Saudi backed golf.
Gotcha.
And they had an event. There's an event scheduled in New Orleans,
Mhm.
and
It's gonna be
something
postponed.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna
something
be
happened.
postponed.
And it might have been weather.
Well, let's see. Oh, so I go to the link that says it's been postponed. I get 20 more stories. How about that? Let's see. Plan to postpone, may postpone, to be postponed, finally, as funding questions grow. So it has to do with funding. Louisiana television station is reporting that an upcoming Live Golf event will be postponed. The latest development fueling persistent questions about the league's financial footing and adding to growing speculation that funding concerns are becoming an unwelcome distraction. Well,
So
that's
you know
interesting.
why, or this would
No.
be my guess, right? So this is totally from a different who's sponsoring it, the Saudis, right? And they've been
Right?
spending heavily in sports, right, to get people there, but they depend on a constant flow of what?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Big old oil.
and they ain't got any.
I have none. Yeah, so they're
So,
preparing to scale back or withdraw its support.
yep. So
He
they
re
don't have any money to put
Yep,
on this event.
yep. Yeah, it
So
says that
anyway,
the
that's
Masters
just a
that the
guess.
circuit was fully funded at least through this year, projecting confidence and stability at the moment of heightened scrutiny. The reality is that you're funded through the season, and then you work like crazy as a business to create a business and a business plan to keep us going, O'Neill said, but that's not different from any other private equity funded business in the history of mankind. The event in which would be a first of its kind in New Orleans and City Park is backed by the Saudi Private Investment Fund. Sources tell WDSU the state of Louisiana is postponing the event until LIV can restructure financially and find additional sources of funding. This event could be scheduled in the future. Wow, that hurts business, right?
It
Everybody was planning on this.
Well, the money that came in is ridiculous. They paid players $300 million
Oh my
just to
goodness.
play in their event, and not just one, right? There's
Wow.
10 or 12 of them of the hottest. And what happens is they're not on the PGA tour, they're on the LIV
Oh,
tour.
gotcha.
And so then when you get into rankings, world rankings, and competitive play, the only way they get to play in things like the Masters or the US Opens if they've won before or if they're good enough to qualify to get in. So what, like, the Saudis paid Ronaldo an obscene amount of money to play soccer in Saudi Arabia, I think. Well, it's the same thing. They're buying a brand and they're putting their dollars on these guys, whether they succeed or fail. It's not, I'll say it's not capitalism. The business model is probably active funds. They just had
Yeah.
so much money, and because of stuff that's likely going on, they've had an interruption. They got to rebuild. They got issues, and hopefully they're going to be a part of the salvaging of the area that was Iran.
Right. So
I mean,
here's
I
an
think
interest
that's one of the great things is the Arab country participation against Iran. That's why it's going to work.
Yeah. So here's an interesting story I just ran across from Insider. I've traveled to over 40 countries. So do you have a bucket list? Do you have things that you put on a bucket list that you feel like you have to do before you die? A lot of people do.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't either. Yeah, but these 5 bucket list destinations left me disappointed. Even in a travel story, they're negative.
Wow.
What the heck?
So
This is
these are like the
terrible.
5 places you don't want to
Yeah,
go.
I guess. I don't know. This is crazy. So there's nothing romantic about Paris. So first he says, as a seasoned traveler, he learned that some places are better left as fantasies. A layover in Cairo revealed how modern chaos can overshadow even the most majestic ancient wonders. And he felt more like a commercial cult and was shocked by how rude people were in Paris. Wow, that's terrible. So here he is at, I don't know what that's all about. Back in 2010, a 3-day layover in Cairo on an Egypt Air flight from London to Johannesburg felt like destiny calling. I'd always been mesmerized by ancient Egypt's pharaohs, myths, and architecture. Stepping off the plane, however, the Egypt of my imagination vanished almost instantly. In its place was a sprawling brown city of intense heat, dilapidation, and overwhelming frenzy. Kind of like going to LA, right? From the moment I left
The
the airport,
parts
I
of it.
felt like a walking target. Every interaction from a forced perfume shop detour to navigating the aggressive markets felt like a potential scam. And then there were the pyramids of Giza. They are undeniably breathtaking, more massive, more majestic, more impossible than any picture could capture. Standing before them, I felt like I felt a genuine awe I will never forget. But the magic was short lived. Turning around, the view was dominated by fast food joints directly across from the Sphinx. The air was thick, not with ancient mystery, but with the shouts of hundreds of vendors and the exhaust of countless tour buses. It's interesting. I don't know that I would have thought that it would be anything else, right?
Yeah, I don't know. My family travels a lot and my
Mhm.
brother travels a lot, and they find great value in it. I think it's cool to see some places, but I don't have to
Oops.
fly in a box 22 hours to go see Australia for some reason.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So
So
anyway,
anyway, he
I don't
traveled to
really
all
get
these
it.
different
I don't
places. Oh,
really get it.
Hollywood. I'll bet he had a terrible time in Hollywood. I used to work down the street from that sign. Oof, that's an interesting place. If travel was my first love, showbiz was my second. Like millions, I grew up on a diet of American movies and TV that painted Hollywood as a glittering, otherworldly, it's glittering, paradise of palm trees and a perpetual glamour. So to walk the Hollywood Walk of Fame was the ultimate dream. Yeah, but it's not all glitz and glamour. The reality was,
My favorite place was Barney's Beanery.
and where's Barney's Beanery?
Oh, it's right there in the
I don't
middle of
even
Hollywood.
know.
It's a kind of a gaming
Oh, okay.
bar.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got pool tables. It has the killer
gotcha.
hot dogs. It had American style food. It
I
was
was
a
too busy
killer place
working.
for lunch. I saw not that long ago, I think the owner of that place owned it and it sold it. But anyway, I remember calling on that establishment when I was in beverage alcohol in that area. And it was a friendly oasis many times for me.
Well, he was trying to photograph the Hollywood sign, I guess, and ended up, running into a lot of rattlesnakes. So, yeah, probably don't think of that for Hollywood, but yes, there are. And
Yeah,
what
it
do we
seems
got
to me
here?
like they could just do the drone thing.
Uh, yeah, exactly. Yes. Bali
Right?
is
I
overrun
mean,
with
because it's a nightmare if you had to like stand on top of some downtown building or something,
I know, that's
on
crazy.
top of the record building or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still you're looking up. It's not a anyway.
So Bali is overrun with a cult-like hippie scene. Oh, so Bali is sold as the eat, pray, love island paradise for spiritual awakening and rustic tropical bliss. But what I found felt more like a well-branded spiritual industrial complex. The reality is an island straining under mass tourism. I don't know. I kind of wonder, how do people not realize that's what you're going to see is a bunch of tourism, unless you search out areas outside of, where everybody goes, right?
The world's smart, right? Capitalists
Yeah, of
everywhere.
course. Yeah.
And so to be only see the romantic side of that, seems to me like
Well,
that
if
guy
you come to Reno and you go downtown, that's a whole different thing from driving around Reno proper, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's just a whole different thing. Like where
Yeah,
you
it's a
where your
value
home is,
add,
I
right?
mean,
I call it a value add, right? It's like
yeah.
Lake Tahoe. If you want to go spend some money or, make a sports bet and have a hot dog and a beer for $2.50, it's just a freak show, right? It's just
Yeah,
another reason for tourists to hang out.
right. And then what's his last spot? Ah, Thailand, most boring city. Thailand feels like a betrayal. In fact, I adore the country so much that I moved there last year. Over the years, I've explored the alleys of Bangkok and island hopped between the country's stunning southern islands like Phuket and Koh Samui. I'm sure I'm destroying that. So naturally, the cultured scene north of Chiang Mai was next on my list. However, I was completely underwhelmed when I finally visited in 2023. It's undeniably pleasant, it's serene, it's famous for stunning temples. But after you visited the fifth or sixth, wait, you quickly realize there isn't much else to, I'm sorry, that was Watt, wasn't it? There isn't much else to do. My memory is of a dusty, charming town, one sleepy river, and a bunch of temples, in a kingdom bursting with energetic cities and idyllic islands. So he says it's the sleepiest, if not downright dull destination. So there you go. What can I
Isn't that
tell
what
you?
you travel for those to those
I
places for?
I think that's what you do. I would think.
I
So,
mean, I've never being post family guy, right? I've never, rushing to those places that are busy with kids and things
yeah. Yeah.
on a vacation that's like kind of they're non-vacations, they're kind of exercise and mobility. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds
I
like
don't
an
know.
option.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because it looks like our guest has joined us. And so I'm going to let him in and tell you a little bit about him before. Hello there. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. We have with us Evan Stewart, who is recently retired as a senior partner in an international law firm headquartered in New York City. And you're a visiting professor at Cornell University, an adjunct professor at Fordham Law School. You just have all sorts of things going on for you, my dear sir. In addition, he's contributing columnist for the New York Law Journal, New York Business Law Journal, and the Federal Bar Council Quarterly. He has published approximately 300 articles on a variety of legal subjects and is frequently featured in the national media and regularly speaks across the country on securities, professional responsibility, and complex litigation issues. You have a wealth of information in that brain of yours, sir.
Well, I've been around a long time.
Well, we are glad to have you here, and you're also the author of William Henry Seward's Quest to Save the Nation During the Secession Winter, along with a number of other titles that I do want to talk about if we have a chance.
Great.
So very, very nice to have you here. I've been looking forward to it. And I know you can't see Ed very well there. He's in the dark. Got a cover over his patio there. He's the masked man. What can I tell you? So why don't you tell us a little bit about, first of all, I really want to know what prompted this particular title for you.
So William Henry Seward has been an important figure in my life since I was an undergraduate at Cornell. I was very, very lucky to study with two of the greatest historians in America, if not the world, when I was at Cornell. And Mr. Seward was at the confluence of both of their expertises. So one gentleman was a man named Joel Silby, who is the country's leading political historian for the 19th century, the so-called middle period between 1830 and 1890. And Seward was one of the most important politicians of that era. The other gentleman was a man named Walter Lefebvre, who's the country's leading diplomatic historian. And he got me interested in Seward because Seward, when he was in the Senate in the early 1850s, set out a very detailed architectural plan for how America would expand, not just to the Pacific Ocean, but to markets in China and in Japan. And so this architecture that he conceptualized and laid out really came to be. So he bought the so-called Guano Islands for our coaling stations to go to Asia, bought Midway. Most famously, he bought Alaska. At the same time, he was trying to buy Alaska, somewhat relevant to today's politics. He was trying to buy Greenland. So that's not a new idea in American history.
I was going to say that's not new then, right?
No, that's been around for quite a long time.
Well, when it was my school education, it was Seward's Folly, if I recall correctly.
That's
what
Alaska.
They called it.
Alaska, the greatest land deal, greatest land deal in history.
Yeah,
Alaska for $7.2 million. He also conceptualized what later became known as the Panama Canal. He also had plans to buy a number of islands in the Caribbean to turn it into an American lake. Later became the Virgin Islands, which are American properties. So he didn't live to see all these things completed in his lifetime. They were ultimately carried out by a number of his proteges who followed him as Secretary of State. But his vision is truly an astonishing thing. So I've been pretty well steeped in Seward for 56 years. And
like your best friend, huh?
well, he's a really great man, and he's to a large extent lost to history because he stands so much in Lincoln's shadow. We Americans, and I think this is true in Western civilization generally, we tell history through the eyes of the winners. The ultimate winner in American history is, of course, Abraham Lincoln, our quote, greatest president. And Seward was the odds-on favorite to become the Republican nominee in 1860, but for a host of reasons I'm happy to get into, lost to Lincoln on the third ballot. Then made sure that Lincoln was elected, and then was one of the most consequential secretaries of state.
So I do have a question. Sorry to interrupt, but I have a question about the party choices. How do they compare today to how they were doing that in the 1800s? Because you say he was defeated on the third ballot. Not everybody really knows how all that process works.
So they didn't have primaries back then. So there's completely different process. We've gone through several different iterations about how we select nominees, not elect president, but select nominees to run for president. In 1860, people showed up at the Republican convention basically as favorite sons. And Lincoln was the favorite son of Illinois, although he has a smattering of support other places. Seward was the country's leading Republican. He'd been the most important Republican since the creation of the party. He, in fact, was one of the founders of the party. And Lincoln's strategy was to be a second choice of everyone, and to hopefully prevent Seward from getting elected on the first ballot. And the way that all happened, again, I'm happy to explain this if you'd like, is there are principally three reasons why Lincoln won. One was they arranged through some subterfuge to get the convention held in Chicago as opposed to any place else. So it was home field advantage for Lincoln. They forged a lot of tickets, so the convention was swarmed with Lincoln supporters, which helped a lot of enthusiasm and momentum for Lincoln. Secondly, Seward had a different position on immigration than Lincoln did. Seward, when he was governor of New York in the 1840s, had been very welcoming of immigrants, in particular Irish Catholics from Europe, and did a lot to help them come into the mainstream of American life, in particular with respect to education. This earned him the enmity of the so-called know-nothings, which were a very powerful political force in the 1850s who hated immigrants, and in particular hated Irish Catholics. And toward the latter part of the 1850s, the know-nothings, quote, fused into the Republican Party. And they were a very potent force in three states: Illinois, Indiana, and Pennsylvania. Lincoln professed to not like know-nothings, but took that position as a private matter. He took no public position in opposition to know-nothings because he had a lot of know-nothing friends and wanted to help this fusion process. And so the know-nothing support in those three states went decisively for Lincoln, excuse me, and helped put him over the top. The third reason, which is the most consequential, is Lincoln's campaign manager, a fellow named David Davis, who Lincoln later puts on the Supreme Court, out-corrupted Seward's campaign manager, a famous guy named Thurlow Weed, who was well known for his so-called corruption. And what Davis did was he promised cabinet seats to the leading politicians of Indiana and Pennsylvania if they would switch on the second and third ballots to Lincoln. He literally traded cabinet seats to those two gentlemen, and those bribes were sufficient to turn those delegations to Lincoln, and the momentum of those two states put Lincoln over the top. So not a very pretty picture, but that's the way politics worked.
Well, I would guess that if we know the backstories today, we'd probably hear similar types of things happening, don't you think?
Well, politics is certainly not beanbag. Politics is not for the faint of hearted, and the way legislation gets passed, the way deals are made in politics, it's not sort of civics 101. But the process is different. The primary system is
Right.
different
Right.
today. But yeah, politics is tough business, no doubt about it. And that's part of the story of this book is Seward's attempts to use all of his political skills after the election and up to and including Lincoln's inauguration on those 4 months. And it's not really necessarily a pretty story. That he's using a lot of, shall we say, subterfuge and dissemblance and misleading people and telling people
Right.
what they want to hear, things like that.
Yeah,
which
one
is
of the things, that in reading your book that kind of stayed with me was the fact that while Lincoln was off on his trip coming back to Washington and he was on the train and he's telling people all these different things, which is contrary to what Seward was telling the folks back in Washington, D.C.
Yes, very unhelpful. Lincoln was, well, first of all, Lincoln, prior to that trip, from November, December, January until the last week in February, had said nothing publicly. And so Seward is trying to negotiate and keep the Upper South in the Union while the incoming president is really radio silence. He's not engaged. And so that caused one set of problems. And then, as you point out, excuse me, when Lincoln makes this meandering railroad trip from Springfield through various northern states on his way to Washington, he gets out on the back of a train or steps up on a portico on a hotel, or most famously, he addresses the New Jersey State Assembly and makes all these extemporaneous off-the-cuff comments, which are very unhelpful. I mean, at one point, famously, he says in the New Jersey legislature, he says, and of course, Lincoln's a very, very big man. I mean, 6'4" is not that big today, but in 1860, it was huge. So here you have this very big guy up on the front of the New Jersey legislature, and he says, "I guess we're just going to have to put our foot down," and he slams his foot on the podium with this large crack. We're going to put our foot down on these people who are trying to make a mess of our country. And this brought huge cheers from the New Jersey legislatures. But this was interpreted by the South, and in particular by the upper states of the South, the so-called border states who were still in the Union, as Lincoln was planning to coerce them, actually use force to reunite the country. And that was not helpful to what Seward was trying to do.
Right. So does that kind of represent that Lincoln wasn't prepared for the presidency, or
yeah,
is that kind of representative of that?
in a word, yes. I mean, even his most famous biographer, David Donald, says that Lincoln was more of a person in process of becoming president rather than someone who was ready to be president. As I point out in the book, Lincoln had no executive experience. He knew virtually no one in Washington. He'd only had one very undistinguished term in Congress 10 years before. He was really a small town politician and lawyer, albeit successful lawyer in Illinois, who'd run unsuccessfully twice for the Senate. And so here he is stepping into this job as president of the country while the country is literally falling apart. So I don't care how well prepared you are, this is an unprecedented experience. Seward, on the other hand, had been a governor of the most important state of the country. He'd been in the Senate for 10 years, was the most important Republican in the country, the most experienced fellow. And he was trying to do his best during these months to try to hold the Upper South in the Union. And in fact, as I point out in the book, and you've read it, he was successful. I mean, Virginia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, and Arkansas all voted not to secede, something that people really don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what as I was reading it, I thought, wow, this is something we don't learn. This isn't something that's in the history books that are taught in the schools when I was going to school.
Yeah, and importantly, the elections, particularly in Virginia, the vote wasn't even close. It was 2-1 not to secede, and so um, what Seward was doing was working. All he needed was a little help from Lincoln, and initially, after Lincoln is inaugurated, initially Lincoln seems to be on the same page with Seward, especially with respect to this critical issue about resupplying Fort Sumter. But then Lincoln changes his mind in late March and early April and decides to resupply Fort Sumter against Seward's advice. And this is very important for people listening and watching. Lincoln made that decision to resupply Fort Sumter, knowing, not suspecting, not thinking it was probable, but literally knowing that the act of resupplying Fort Sumter would cause the Civil War. So that was a pretty consequential change of his position, Lincoln's position. And historians have debated exactly why he changed his mind.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Why do you think that happened?
I think it's a combination of several things. One is he had a difficulty with the so-called non-compromise Republicans, the wing of that party, principally led by a fellow named Charles Sumner, who was a senator from Massachusetts, who didn't want to compromise at all with anyone in the South. They said, basically, forget it. So he had that. He had political issues. I think he was trying to be too cute by half, by telling the people, I'm not sending military supplies to Fort Sumter. I'm only sending medical and food supplies. Well, that to the people in the South, that didn't make a difference. That was resupplying Sumter. Two prior ships that had sailed into Charleston Harbor had been fired upon. So there's no doubt what was going to happen. Some historians believe that Lincoln was trying to push the ball and make it Jefferson Davis's fault of the war. And I think there's something to that. I think Lincoln was also trying to assert himself. He was having difficulty, again, adjusting to this job. He was under great stress. He wasn't sleeping. He was having migraine headaches. At one night, late in March, he collapsed on the floor. He one night, in response to something this is detailed in the book, in response to something that General Scott, who was the head of the army, proposed to him, he literally blew his top, which is something I'm unaware of any other instance when Lincoln is president during his entire 4.5 years, almost 4.5 years, where he literally was like a volcano. He literally blew his top. So he was under enormous strain, trying to find his footing, assert himself. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is people both in the South and the North did not think that this was going to be a consequential or long, difficult struggle. They both thought that this would be decided in a battle or maybe two. Lincoln did not think that he'd heard these people talking about secession for 30 years. He didn't take it quite as seriously as Seward did. He thought there was a lot of support for the Union in the Upper South, which there was less than he thought based upon what happened at Fort Sumter. But I think he miscalculated somewhat. And as did the South. I mean, no one thought when the Civil War started that 700,000 people would be dead in 4 years. That's 2% of the American population, which is just
it's huge.
Yeah, it's like the casualties in the Soviet Union in World War II. It's of that level of magnitude.
So did Lincoln and Seward get along when they were working together? I mean, based on some of the stuff you're saying, there were definitely some conflicts. But all in all, did they get along?
Yes. So there was a period where, well, let me start. So Lincoln arrives in Washington, and Seward's trying to use all of his considerable charm to influence Lincoln. And it obviously has some effect, as I detail in the book. Importantly, Lincoln shows Seward his prepared inaugural address, which he's already put in typeset. So it's already printed. And Seward looks at this thing and thinks, "Oh my God, is one of the most hard, confrontational, in your face to the South, threatening type of inaugural address imaginable." And Seward thinks if he gives us this address, the Upper South will secede within hours, days, certainly weeks. And so he sits down and literally writes. He actually has his son redo his handwriting because it's so terrible. A 6-page single-space letter with 50 substantive changes.
Oh, wow.
Not changing and to but take this out and don't do this, and I mean, literally huge numbers of changes. And he also suggests a different ending. Lincoln had basically a very threatening ending and said, "Don't do that. That's terrible. You should have a different ending." And he wrote out a very different ending, very conciliatory ending about we're really all brothers. We've shared all these years and experiences as countrymen, and we shouldn't lose that set of bonds that we have together. Famously, Lincoln takes almost all of Seward's changes and he re-engineers that final paragraph, changing it from what I'd call more of a lawyerly type statement into something that's really beautiful prose. So if you go and read the first inaugural address, you'll see this last paragraph. It's beautifully stated. Anyway, Seward did not know that Lincoln had adopted all these changes, including the last paragraph, until he heard Lincoln's inaugural address. He thought that Lincoln was going to be as aggressive as he proposed to be in his first draft inaugural address. So he actually withdrew his acceptance as Secretary of State. Only after hearing Lincoln's address, he thought, well, maybe things are different. And so later that day at the White House, Lincoln implores Seward to stay, to become Secretary of State, and Seward gives in. There's a period in that first month. This may be a longer answer than you wanted.
No,
a period in that first month when Seward's having a little difficulty adjusting to being number two. There's no doubt about that. But partly it's because Lincoln is besieged. He's spending every day besieged by people wanting patronage jobs. So believe it or not, in just one day in March of 1861, there are 1,000 people in the White House.
Oh my.
Bugging Lincoln for a job. That's just one day.
Wow.
So by the time Sumter happens and the war begins, Seward becomes much more aligned with being Lincoln's principal advisor and being the most important cabinet officer in the administration. And importantly, as I point out in the book, once Seward makes it clear to Lincoln that he has no aspirations to contest Lincoln for a second term or to succeed Lincoln after Lincoln's presidency, he has no more presidential ambitions. At that point, the two men became very good friends and can work very closely together. And as I say in the book, I think at that point, it's a friendship that wins the Civil War.
That's interesting.
Wow. Hey, who did Seward hang out with? Who was his posse? I mean, what,
Well, what's interesting is to go back, unlike Lincoln, he knew all these people in Washington, and he was a great raconteur. His parties were the most popular parties in Washington. He had a house right across from the White House in Lafayette Square, where everyone loved it, even people who were political opponents of his. So Salmon Chase, who was Secretary of the Treasury, who was a great rival of Seward's and was unlike Seward, still continued to have presidential ambitions till the day he died. He got along famously with Seward socially. To give you another example, Jefferson Davis, who ultimately becomes head of the Confederate government, he was a very close friend of Seward's when they were in the Senate together in the 1850s. And so even political opponents got along with Seward, thought he was incredibly smart, which he was, thought he was very charming, which he was, thought he was very persuasive, which he was, threw a great party, which he did. And so he got along with all these men. They were all men, of course, and was able to schmooze at a very high political level with these people, which was very important during the Secession winter, because he could talk to all these people on terms that he knew which buttons were important to push for which people.
All right. Well, we want to make sure that we talk about your website and how to get your book, because those things are all very important.
Well, thanks to my daughter, I do have a website. It's C.EvanStewartAuthor.com. And it has all my 4 books on it. And
one of which we didn't get to talk about. I need to have you on again, because this one that I have on the screen, The Worst Supreme Court Decisions Ever, sounds very interesting.
It's gotten a lot of traction, and people are very interested in that and my take on what the Supreme Court's doing today, et cetera. So I'd be very happy to come back at your convenience at any time.
Awesome. Yeah, we'd love to talk about that, because we're running out of time here. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knows you're obviously available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all those things. And then to go to your website and check out all these other books as well.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for being with us. And we hope we'll see you again. I'll be in touch, and we'll get another booking done for you.
I'd love to do it, and I'd love to talk about any and all of my other books. But
well, that one is intriguing to me.
the Supreme Court one, I'm happy to talk about.
Yeah. Okay, great.
It's all very fascinating stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Evan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oops. Sorry. Wrong one. Hit the wrong button, Ed.
That's all right. When your face is darked out, I get it.
Yeah, I didn't see the right one.
When you're incognito.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was fascinating.
Great.
I enjoy the backstories.
Me too.
About people that are less than, that we don't know about. That aren't the winners in history, I guess.
Yeah, and with guests like him, it's like, oh, I should have had him on for an hour.
Well, it's so fascinating because I live here in Grant territory. U.S. Grant, and the Underground Railroad was the Ohio River, and
right,
and all those things are local lore here. And I think one of the reasons why, like in Nevada, people are all really Lincoln fans is because he hung out there, right? The Comstock.
Exactly.
He spent time there. His buds hung out there.
Yeah.
And so
I loved your question.
Yeah.
That was great.
So anyway, we know more certainly about the president than we do Seward. And I was right about Alaska. Seward's father.
You were. Yeah. You
right.
were.
And isn't that not funny? That's literally 200 years before President Trump.
Yep. I know. It was very interesting. Some of the sameness that you're hearing, whether you want to admit it or not, right?
Well, they laughed at him, though, right? This guy got a lot of that land and territorial. He was way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
People of the time didn't get it.
Yep, it's true. All right. Well, we got to close this out. You're listening to What's the Story? And I'm Janice Hermson, and he's Ed Knoll, and we're going to be back again. Hopefully next week we'll do another one with another author, and maybe more than one. Never can tell. Now that we got better equipment, right, Ed?
Awesome. I love it, man. I have power.
Yay. That's awesome. I'm glad. All right. We'll see you guys all next week, and just hang in there and read some books, however
Yeah.
you read. All right.
Have a great
Take
week.
care. Bye, everybody.